Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Embrace the Face. We are here in season 3, talking all high vibe and healing content. And today I have a very good friend of mine, Miss Ilana Slavin, with me. How are you, Ilana?
Good.
So, Ilana is a co-owner of Charms Eclectic Healing Shop in Belmore, New York, where all things crystals, healing, copper pyramids, copper wands, Reiki healing, psychic readings, and classes galore. So, Ilana, I have on today, we're going to discuss heart-centered versus ego. But before we get into all that, I just want to introduce Ilana. She is a master's in education certified school psychologist. She is a licensed massage therapist. She has yoga certification of over 200 plus hours. She's a Reiki master. She grew up learning about stones, gems, and minerals via her stepdad, who's a gemologist. And she is very similar as me, as focusing on life, figuring out heart-centered versus ego. So, Ilana, go ahead and introduce yourself. Welcome. The stage is yours.
Hi, I'm Ilana. That was a really nice introduction. Thank you.
Oh, yes,
Thank
of
you.
course.
She did it for me. So when Allie asked me a while ago to do this interview, I thought, okay, I'm a little nervous, but I know I could definitely talk a little bit about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm finding like in most days, just generally speaking, and in like most just like moment to moment things that like I'm always like coming back to that it's love or it's ego. And so I always come back to that template in my mind for a couple of reasons. Well, because it's true.
Yeah.
But coming from a couple of places, I'll start with the second place, which was my yoga intensive training in like 2009. So a long time ago. But like in learning and really training on the yoga principles, it's really, again, I can speak a little bit about a lot of it, and there's people very versed in like the principles of yoga, but essentially like even something called ahimsa, which is a Sanskrit word for nonviolence. So it's like, but it's nonviolence in word, thought, or deed. So it's also just like in our regular way of speaking to each other or approaching kind of a thing. So those yoga principles always kind of like really like become like a template or a blueprint that like I'll tend to go back to. And it's in all things. So the bigger template, which is the first place this comes from for me, besides I just think human nature, is from my mother. And my mother's very spiritual, and she set us on a spiritual path.
As kids, like younger age?
Really like in my teenagehood. I mean, my mother's just lovely and loving and sweet, and she's always like kind of has demonstrated that. But once I was, kind of like family dramas and traumas and things happen, and then by like my teenagehood, she really set herself and us on this path. So my brother was older, my sister was little. So she, got it to her young, but my mom always knows like I'm the one who like really gets it and like lives as best as I can by that way. So in those times, like my teenagehood, my mother started really like adhering to that stuff. And I'm reading like Many Lives, Many Masters, A Simple Abundance, which is a lovely book, and just like regularly reading very spiritual books. So one of her main go-tos, kind of like her Bible, is a book by Marianne Williamson. It's called A Return to Love. And A Return to Love is essentially a Course in Miracles, which is like a more like intricate book, if you will, in layman's terms. So it's kind of like abridged and more simplified. And what the Course in Miracles teaches essentially is love versus ego, and that is what a Return to Love is about. So my mother would read that book. She would give it to everybody, and she'd be like, all things are love and ego, all things. And I remember her teaching me that. And then I trained in yoga, many years later. So it was kind of like, again, like a blueprint for me. And the more like just day-to-day things, everything, all things, like it can always be brought back to that.
Yes. And I feel like that's like the foundation of life. And it's funny you say, so I'm so happy to know that you learned that as a teen, because I do the same thing with my kids. Like my kids meditate, they journal. I'm always talking about ego versus heart. I'm always talking about following your heart, but keeping your ego in check.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they're 13 and 12 and they're like, what are you talking about?
Crazy.
Yeah. Like, okay, mommy. Okay. And with the crystals and the Reiki, I mean, they love it all.
But it
and
sinks
they
in.
take
It
to
does.
all.
Because it did, for me. And I believed in it. And I saw, as you apply it, like
it works. Yeah.
It's true.
And you're a big lover of Esther Hicks.
Right? I am, yes.
Yeah, so talk about Esther.
I've seen her. Esther. Yeah, I've seen her even live one time.
Okay. What's her main teaching that you caught?
So I'm sure like people could tell you so much more, but I did not only like get into Esther Hicks, but I did like at certain points in my life really submerge myself in listening over and over to her teaching. So her main, she says so many things.
Many things to choose from.
I don't even know where to begin with her, but like her main message, if you will, first of all, she channels the spirit of Abraham. Mm-hmm. So when she's speaking, she's a vessel, and it's Abraham speaking about like how people need to like realize how it is. And a lot of what she says is don't take things so seriously. Like you're all like everything. She's like,
I've actually had priests tell me that, like in confession, don't take life so seriously. But okay, continue.
And that's like a main message that she gives, almost like spirit laughing at us, our human,
our ego,
our
human nature.
Yeah. So she talks about being in your vortex. So essentially being in your vortex is being in like your most highly aligned state, if you will. And, we all like today talk about manifesting, blah, blah, and it's true. And we want to kind of see materialize what we have in our minds. Mm-hmm. But the truth is we come into this physical being with these things in our mind because we want them, right? They're our natural desires. Mm. So if that's your desire, you're supposed to have it, or why would you want it, right? So God didn't put you here to want things that you can't have. That's miserable, would be the point. So the idea is not necessarily like, it's kind of sort of like a cyclical, because you can like think it in your mind and then see it happen. But the idea is if we stepped into this lifetime, if you will, with certain desires and ways of wanting to be and live and things to experience, then we've already put that out there. So we step in with all these things already aligned for us. And the higher we can align with our high frequency and vibration and be in our vortex of what the abundance that the world has to offer you, that those things just sort of unfold. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's about feeling good. So she's all about like, you have to be in a feel good state, and whatever it is, find the better feeling thought. You feel crappy, you're thinking this, you're thinking that. Consciously choose the better feeling thought. And once you choose the better feeling thought right there and then, you're going to raise that vibration. So if you make that a practice and condition yourself, you start to be closer and more so in your vortex. And then you start to see, like she'll say, it'll become almost laughable how the abundance appears, how things flow in, or opportunity or love or all the things we want.
Yeah, I think it's like hand in hand with like law of attraction. And if you envision it in your mind's eye, you are worthy of attaining that goal or that vision.
And not just manifesting what you think you want, but knowing I came in wanting this because I want it. I know it in my heart. Mm-hmm. So if I feel good and I already act and feel like I already have it, I may as well, because I'm here for it. I want it. Where is it? So let's feel in the vibration and that being of being in it and having it. And then the next thing you know, you turn a corner and it's there. It shows up.
Yeah, mm-hmm. It shows up. So when I read, like, so I haven't read any of the works that you have, which I probably should. I enjoy that. But I've read like Brian Weiss and all that, and a bunch of different authors about soul growth. I do a lot more listening than reading. Yeah. I mean, me too. I'll do Audible. We're on the go. We're both moms.
Read a book.
Yeah. And we're both moms. We're both on the go. We're both, so Audible is also okay. You don't have to have
YouTube. Yeah, Esther Hicks is all over YouTube. I listen to those YouTube clips. They have kept me.
Yeah, and I think
afloat.
that universally speaking, regardless of theology or philosophy or which author it is, I feel like it wouldn't do this conversation justice if we didn't talk about the fact that like all of the universal, the Vedic texts, the Bible, the all different ancient theories, all say that the only thing that we need to worry about each and every day is what is occurring in that moment, that now. Everything is in the now, right? So what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? What are you tasting? What did I miss? See, hear, yeah, like what your five senses, right? That's all you need to worry about every single effing moment of your life, and nothing else matters. Because if you are in that vortex of your higher self and you are only living in the moment, you are automatically heart-centered. And you are
automatically moving through each moment in that good feeling state, and in that state of appreciation and gratitude. And even if it's smelling your kid's hair, or like, even if it's feeling their soft cheeks, or enjoying a strawberry or whatever, like
like always giving thanks, always being in that moment, taking in everything and being appreciative for it. And then remembering that, as we were laughing before, like our human nature, we are so egotistical and fear-based and lack-based and woe is me-based.
Or trauma-based, wanting to self-protect and being conditioned to past.
And that's okay.
Crap. Like
that's
okay. All are.
Yeah, like, and we're here today to tell people, because you and I most certainly have been dealt our fair share of trauma and drama throughout life. So now it's to a point where I was just telling my therapist yesterday, actually, because as spiritual as I am, I still go and speak to a therapist once in a while. And I said, lately, I feel like I've had like all these low blows come at me externally. So regardless of what they are, but I'm at a point in my life where like I feel so grounded, and also my nervous system is calm. So like, I know that there's something to this work. There's something to like, and I was somebody who was riddled with anxiety, depression. I was told that I had a mood disorder. I was told that I was possibly bipolar. Like, and until I stepped into the idea that, one, I'm the only one who can help myself. And two, like, there's more to what I'm drowning in. Like there is hope. Even though the word hope is like, I've learned over time, like it's not a great word to use, but maybe my faith is that like I can heal. And I went from somebody who was literally suicidal to somebody who was losing her entire family over everything. And now I am successful, and I'm happy, and I'm flowing, and I've done a full, is it a 180 or a 360? I wouldn't even know.
A 180, because a 360 brings
with
you
full circle, yes. So it's like there is something to be said, everyone, and I can't express this enough, that if you envision it, regardless of who is putting you down, regardless of who is telling you, because it's always an external, or it's your inner voice, that inner ego, negative ego voice telling you that, for me, I was a piece of shit and I was never going to amount to anything, and I was going to ruin everything. I was going to ruin every relationship I came across. I was going to fuck everything up. I was going to make a fool of myself no matter what I did, and joke was on me. But once that perception switched around, is that neuroplasticity, that idea that we can, and studies show that in 8 weeks, I'm always talking about this, studies show that if you meditate for, like, you do a body scan for 20 minutes and you tell yourself that you love yourself every day for 8 weeks, your gray matter changes. Your neurotransmitters
just like
change.
the water experiment. When you speak lovingly to water, it crystallizes in a certain way, and when you speak hatefully, it crystallizes.
100%. Yeah. If you, I will share something. And it's not as pretty with the
no,
and actually, I love that you bring that up. I'll share that later. But it's, if nobody knows what we're talking about, it's pictures of water under a microscope, the crystalline structure of literally saying, I love you or I hate you. And the ugliness, essentially, of the I hate you crystalline structure, and then the beauty of the it's all sacred
almost
geometry,
like snowflakey, the water that's been spoken lovingly to.
Yeah, so there's something to be said. Science is proving this. Quantum physics is proving all of this. Decades and decades of like Brian Weiss studied for decades, and who else? Brian Weiss, Michael Newton, Dolores Cannon, Esther Hicks, like all these.
I do this with my child when he's asleep. I like speak loving things to his little brain while he's sleeping, because I'm like, anything that's like ruining him in the real world at night, I'm just like, you're so loved, you're so awesome, Mama loves you. Like I try to like,
I love that.
And then let me tell you, I have not woken up happy almost any day in my life. I don't mean that. But I like how I'm grumpy. My dad used to say I was the only 2-year-old he knew that needed her first cup of coffee in the morning. Esther Hicks helps because she will say, when you wake up, start the day with that good feeling thought, find it, fucking figure it out. Like, even just up level it a notch from that, whatever you woke up with that isn't gonna make you feel good, right?
I write it down.
But let me tell you, this kid wakes up happy, and I'm like, thank God he wakes up happy, because I'm like, don't talk to me.
Okay, so
and he's like, Mommy, and I'm like, what's he so happy about?
Okay, so let's go.
Cute.
So there's a tool, right? So how can Ilana? She's doing this is what we do as
I
parents.
should say it to myself, you're awesome. You're gonna have the best dreams. You're gonna wake up
and
floating on a rainbow.
And listen, we have to tell ourselves that.
Right. And so Esther, will say, choosing joy, right? Mm-hmm. Choose that better feeling thought consciously. And also remembering that when we do something consciously, we start to do it subconsciously. So even like when I teach people yoga, proper physical alignment for a yoga pose, you're going to tell yourself to make sure your knees over your ankles so that your joints are stacked and supporting each other, right? Mm-hmm. But you're going to if you didn't learn the right way or you didn't practice enough, you're going to tell yourself until your body just knows and does it on its own because of that muscle memory and that conditioning, right? Yeah. So it's conditioning, just like you're saying, the neuroplasticity. And there is, it is talked about, which I thought was interesting about, that there's like a hope muscle. And it I think it's even measured or studied that the hope center of the brain, like that muscle, can be stronger or not. So it's interesting when I read that or saw that somewhere recently, I felt that makes sense to me because I've always felt like a hopeful person. I've always felt like optimistic kind of a person. So I felt like, you know what, even when things are shitty, there's something in me that still feels good and excited for something more and better. And that's my hope muscle. And things end up working out most of the time, or at least in their time, right? Amen. Mm-hmm. And I know that it's my hope muscle is strong, and I'm grateful for that. So I may wake up like a grumpy bitch, but
you automatically.
But I know, I'm like, I'll push. Just give me a minute.
Yeah.
But that okay. So then she also, Esther Hicks tells a story.
Okay.
Where it's a perfect example of this and the contrast of this. And then speaking of contrast, real quick, she'll say everything is for you to see the contrast. So whatever doesn't feel good, that's okay. It's a springboard for you to say, well, if this doesn't feel good and feel right, it's not a good feeling thing. It's not for me. And now I see even more so in an even more refined way, right? The contrast of what I do want, what my desire is that does feel right and good, and then the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one, right? And she says, don't be frustrated in the unfolding. You're falling in love, you're this, you're that, you're waiting for it to be a seal deal, whatever it is. But you know what? It's in that unfolding, that certain excitement that builds until you get there. And once you get there, guess what? That whole chapter of the building and the excitement is done. So being in the excitement, in the flow, and the joy of the process of it, right? Because then you get your love, whatever, but all that courting and building up, that part's over. So why be all stressed out in the midst when you could be enjoying the ride? So that brings me to her story. So she takes her grandkids to an amusement park, speaking of rides, and the granddaughter, or one of them, I think the granddaughter is in a great mood. She's going to go on this ride, this ride, this ride. She's going to have the best day. And this kid, she says, literally has the best day, just like the kid anticipated. She's happy. She's killing it, like having the best day at the amusement. Meanwhile, her little brother is like angsty, pissed off, whatever's not going his way, whatever's his issue, griping, this, what, whatever is the kid. And she's like, let me tell you how she sat back and watched each kid's day unfold. And the one who was like happy being in the moment and going with the flow and looking for what was going to excite her had a great day. And the one that was pissed off, griping, and whatever wasn't good enough, or he didn't get to do this, or he didn't get to, was pissed off the whole day. She's like, I watched them choose their paths, and the whole day was dictated from that set point on, because they chose it. And we think it's out of choice, and this person did this person said this, I didn't get to do this. Well, it's your perception, and it's the way you move through it and on to the next or better thing, right? Or stay stuck in it, or stay gripey or angsty, or not. So she uses her grandkids.
That's a great example.
How like she watched, she's like, this one's gonna have a great day, and this one not so much. And it's exactly how it plays.
Yeah. So do you
set the tone?
Do you know Dr. Gabor Mate? No. Okay. So he is a neuroscientist. I think a neuropsychiatrist. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But he actually studied, and I've heard him talk on how different siblings can be, even though they are raised within the same home. And it's a matter of it's how our parents were raised, how their parents were raised, and every parent-sibling relationship is different. The way, like, a parent speaks to one child is different the way they speak to the other child. And it's almost like, are we speaking negatively or making one child feel bad? And so they always have this gripiness and like this, because we get frustrated as parents, like we don't realize, but in true reality, the way that we respond to our children is by what we perceive to be like a threat. So, okay, I'm going to admit something here. So this is like a big thing, I think, for me to say. It has always been easier for me to communicate and parent my daughter, who is more free-flowing, more like high vibe, and is not as affected by life circumstances. Whereas I have a harder time, and I have learned to be more patient and loving and kind. And it has been, my baby is 12 years old, and it has been a 12-year, I think I'm finally at the point where it has all clicked for me. And because I recognize that the way that I was treating my son was the same way I was treated as a child. And for some reason, my life's path was to figure out, part of my life's path, I think, was to figure out, how can I break that? How can I really have more compassion for myself so that the same things that I'm seeing in my son that I dealt with, like, I'm not mean to him about it, or I'm not making him feel bad about it. And I have noticed not only changes in myself, but I've noticed changes in the ease of my relationship with my son, and even his moods. Because he would be the one at the amusement park, like she said, that, my daughter's over here having the time of her life, and then my son is over here, like, looking for the things to complain about. And it's not saying that there's anything wrong with him, but that's how I used to be. Before I, like, really did my work, like, I was always kind of looking for the negative and not embracing the moment. So I think if whoever's listening, or, whoever comes across this, like, just know, like, you are doing the best that you can because you were subconsciously trained, quote unquote, to do it this way. But you don't have to. You don't have to do it this way. If you recognize, like, oh, I don't want to be screaming at my kid, and I don't want to, like, be triggered by my kid. Well, why are you triggered? Why? I was just talking about this with my friend at dinner last night. Like, I follow a lot of conscious parenting. And you worked in the schools, so, like, you've seen an array, I'm sure, of different upbringings. And it goes to show that, like, it really is about starting in the home, I think. And it really is, I think this is a time in the collective and the collective energies to become more conscious. To, like, if you're not going to become conscious now, I think you're kind of shit out of luck, to be honest. Like, I think, like, if you're not going to do the work now to wake up from that slumber and realize that, like, we are creating the next generation. We are essentially programming our children at least I now want to bring up my children in a trauma-free environment as much as I can, like low vibe externals will always come through, but like to make them resilient throughout life, and to most importantly make them feel loved and safe and happy and
have a positive outlook.
Yeah.
So that they set the tone for their day and they help and model that.
Yeah.
To help others
and then
their
life that they can then flow through life. Like I love that as a teenager you were told to, or you were shown these works, and I wish I wasn't, but I wish I had that in my life. Like I did not have that. I had a lot of like, I was lost, and I was, which is not uncommon. And like you get lost in the midst of drugs and alcohol and, self-destruction and just
losing sight of your blessings. So like another thing I learned young, because what I want to say is that if all else fails or all else is more difficult, just come to a place of gratitude, because there's always something to be grateful for. There's always got to be someone. And if there's not, maybe you like your hair, whatever it is. So like my dad used to always say, count your blessings, count your blessings, count your blessings, since I was very little. And I know that also ingrained in me. And then he'd start to count my freckles. But, but I know that like in my mind, I would always say like, okay, you almost like make a list, right? So if you keep also that as like a template and a blueprint in your mind, that there's always probably a bunch of things or more than you're even acknowledging until you do, things to be grateful for. So when you're putting out any energy, any emotion, and being in a better feeling state, while being from a place of gratitude, even if you're icked out by certain other things, circumstances, feelings, that will bring you closer to that place and give you also a springboard to get there. Because you're just going to say to yourself, you know what, I may feel crappy, but like, I'm so happy I have a concert next week. I'm so happy my kid left smiling this morning. I'm so happy I'm going to eat a hamburger for dinner. Whatever the F it is, little things that gratitude raises that vibration pretty instantly and is a good fallback.
Yeah,
I think
it's that humbled, heart-centeredness.
Start point.
Yeah, versus the ego. So our ego, Ilana, talk to us a little bit about what our ego can do to us as humans. What can it?
Well, I mean, our egos are very strong. They protect us, certainly. They manage us, too, so that's good. Or is that the super ego? I don't know. But either way, they keep us hopefully.
Sorry, I didn't give her specific homework. We are channeling this episode. So.
They keep us mostly. The ego keeps us in check. You have to check your ego, but it also checks you.
It could also be really mean to us, I think.
Yeah, the ego's hard on us, and either way, I mean, we all have it, and it certainly serves its role and function in our lives and in our minds and our beings. But when it gets in the way is when you're sort of just making a conscious choice to let, really, if you want to be basic and simple about it, you want to let negative win over positive, and it's always a choice. And even if the positive is your removal from something that you can't change or get away from, that, and that's a positive for you. Mm-hmm. So
we're always going to have an ego. We're always like, it's never going to go away no matter how spiritual we get.
Right. So it's like what you're going to choose to be driven by, and for your yes. feelings, your thoughts, your actions, just like ahimsa, like nonviolence in thought, mm-hmm. word, or deed. Well, when the ego takes over, we're going to be, of course, we're going to be angry, hurt, vengeful, accusatory, whatever. But more than anything, we're going to be in a negative state and in a place that's like you're stuck. Well, where does that get you? So if you want to, it doesn't mean you have to skip over things or not address a problem. But if you want to come from a loving place, you're going to get through it with much more smoothly and with in a constructive way and with more productivity, right? Mm. But if you stay in a place of, well, I don't like this, or, you're up against, you're sort of like creating a conflict, well, then you're not choosing a loving path and you're not necessarily going to be solution oriented. So where does it necessarily get you, right? So when your ego's protecting you, like, oh, that's not maybe a good thing for you, let me stay away. Okay, it's functioning properly and utilizable, but when it's making you take what could be positive, flowing, or even a contrast for a decision to you to move away from to more positive, you're either going to choose that or you're going to choose to stay stuck, angry, low vibe, upset, judgmental, feeling like a victim or that people aren't doing the right thing by you, or like essentially we're good. Essentially we're all good for the most part. We're not all good, but for the most part, human nature is good. We want to do good. We want to do a good job. We want to make money and feel good and survive in this world. We want to make the people we love feel loved. Generally speaking, we're not out to upset or hurt people, particularly our friends and loved ones. So when things are misperceived or construed or skewed in a way that like now it's negative and is problematic, well, it's not from a place of love, because again, you're going to hit a wall, or you're going to move through something and come to the light, and whatever that contrast shows you propels you. So that's like a choice. It's always really a choice. So I'm not saying that the ego doesn't play a role, because it does, but we can't let it drive us, other than it protecting us in a way that we know what to do and take from it that's positive, and not take it as fearful or vengeful or in a place that sort of separates instead of brings together. And our human nature, I think, is to be united and not divide. Divided we fall, right? That's what big fucking... Am I allowed to say that? That's what
you can curse. You can say that.
United we stand, divided we fall. I didn't want to talk about Big Brother, but I'm saying like united we stand. And unless you're like really out for yourself, or you don't care about people or whatever, then you're good.
We're a humanity.
Unless it's that, then you're good. And if you're good, then we want to do good, feel good, make our people feel good, and rise together from there. And that's choosing love.
I love it. If you can't hear, I'm silently clapping, like spirit fingers. No, I think that's a beautiful way to explain it. Yeah, I mean, you explained it in layman's terms. So basically, if something is not flowing freely, does not feel loving, and you are having conflict, then you need to check in with your ego, and you need to be like, is this my subconscious programming that's making me feel this way? Or is somebody just treating me really badly? And if that's the case, then okay, like I accept what is. I'm not going to let it get my high vibe down. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to still send that person love and light, because we are a humanity. We are supposed to be in this together. And that's the general idea. Rid of that subconscious programming, shed those old layers, live in that vortex of your higher self. And as you raise your vibration, it then, based on quantum physics and statistics, like real life statistics, but what is life? Life is probably not even real. It's a simulation. But the point is that we've discovered all of these things that prove that when you do the work and raise your vibration, you keep that ego in check, you're living heart-centered, you're grounded, you're connected, you're protected, and you're just living life and you're embracing life, it's going to spread.
Right.
It's literally contagious.
And it's a choice. It really is a choice. You know, it's like coming home from work and feeling like, oh, it's terrible. Everything's falling apart. Everybody's so, I hate it. Or being like, you know, I mean, it wasn't the best day, but now I'm home. I'm happy. And you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to, whatever it is, push through it. I'm going to stay in my vibe. I'm going to make my money that I'm there to do. And I'm going to go on to the next day. So it's like, even if it's just like for yourself, and then it's a spread. Yeah, it's a choice.
But if it's but then when you start doing that work, attitude, which I think is so important, have a positive attitude. But if you're having still, I think I'd say like if you're continuing to have this positive attitude, but you still feel like emotionally drained, you don't like what you're doing, you don't like where your life is at, like stress. That's a sign. Yeah, that's a sign. Stress is a sign that
it's a contrast that you need to strive for something that feels better to you.
Yeah. So if it's, whether it's a relationship or a career, if it's not feeling right and it's causing you despair and autonomic nervous system dysregulation, it is a sign that you need to reevaluate. Mm-hmm. Look within. Mm-hmm. The answer is always within. If you don't know what that means, it means to meditate.
Your feelings are your compass, and it's not okay for you to just kind of submit to that they're going to run me and rule me. And if I feel crappy, I feel crappy. It's not okay, because then you're just going to feel crappy. But if you like take the initiative to do something about it and just change your thought, just try it again the next day, try it again the next day. And all of a sudden you've taken control over your emotions and put in an effort to kind of retrain yourself and reframe. Then you don't let just what's like kind of been ruling you for maybe too long be what dictates it for you. It's like the power of the mind. You're taking that control back, and even of your emotions. Your emotions don't have to run you, and like that's what Esther Hicks' teachings are. Like you gain control and put yourself in a happy state, you're going to see the world respond to you. Law of attraction: the happy kid at the park or the pissed off kid at the park. Law of attraction: how's your day going to go? How's your life going to go?
It is in your hands. You are the creator. Yes. So Ilana's going to share. So Bashar. So if you do not follow Bashar, Bashar is trans-channeled by Daryl Inca. And he's been around decades, I believe, like trans-channeling Bashar, who is a otherworldly being who really is here to serve humanity for the highest good. So Ilana's going to share a little message from Bashar. But with that being said, do you have any advice, Ilana, for anybody? Like what can they do while you're looking that up? What can they do to, like, what's one step that besides like the turn that thought around? What is one thing that somebody can do to make changes, to really stand up for what they believe in and to move forward in that? If somebody is like fighting them on the other side, kind of, if they feel conflicted, how would you suggest that somebody get through that?
I mean, in the tangible, I would say do the listening. Like for me, when I couldn't fight myself out of a certain state, I put on YouTube and I pulled up Esther Hicks, and that's for me. If something else suits you, and I submerged myself in it, and I listened and I listened and I listened, and I did try to remind myself as much as possible to choose a better feeling thought. So it is like a real like homework task, if you will. Wake up, choose the better feeling fucking thought. Just do it and report back.
Yeah.
Didn't work, back. Do it again in a few minutes, do it again later, do it again tomorrow. So I think starting with listenings and or readings of this type of talk, Esther Hicks, Bashar. Okay. I mean, there's tons of just positive law of attraction, mindset, self-healing type of things. And
yeah, I like it.
Meditation.
Yeah, meditation. I always tell people, like, meditation is key. That's
journaling, even if it's a short list in the morning. Here's what I'm grateful for, right? 3 things in the morning, start your day. Do something that like sets a positive tone, even if you're like forcing yourself at first, but it will help bring you slowly there or step by step there.
I love it. Thank you. All right, so go ahead and share what you have from Bashar.
Okay.
iPhones, we have to.
Yeah, like I'd like to say there's like some major thing to do, but it's mindset and it's submerging yourself in it and hearing it and being around it and kind of reframing and retraining your experience and your way of perceiving it and going about it.
Okay, thank you.
So this was just something I saved from, that's not it, from the group in Bashar, and they talk about a formula that he gives, which says, act on your, similar to Esther Hicks type of thing, be in your flow, do what feels good to you. That's your desire. Your desires are there for a reason. They're like a rocket, like a rocket you're launching, like the rockets of desire. Yeah. And then you get this in your hands. What's the next one? There's always more. So act on your excitement, your passion, whatever is most exciting to you in the moment. Do this every moment that you can. Do this to the best of your ability. Take it as far as you can go until you cannot take it any further. Act on your excitement, passion with absolutely no insistence, assumption, or expectation of what the outcome should be. Choose to remain in a positive state regardless of what happens. And lastly, constantly investigate your belief systems. Release and replace the unpreferred beliefs, fear-based beliefs, and the beliefs not in alignment with who you prefer to be.
Done. This
It's
episode
hard.
could have been 30 seconds long if we just started with that. I love it. So no, Bashar actually, a friend of mine recently was like, did you see Bashar's latest thing? He recently said, you humans are so full of potential. You are so powerful. You don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true. We are so hard on ourselves. We are so down on ourselves.
Just like you think of a friend and they call, like there's a lot of
there's a lot of
power.
synchronicities. Start looking for the synchronicities and the energies that are aligning you for your highest self and that vortex that you need to live out your life, because we all deserve that, and every single one of us.
100%. My friend Nicole just told me that she heard a Persian saying. I don't know the saying, but essentially, there's a saying that means that, like, if you think of somebody and they call, that like telepathic synchronicity. There's a Persian saying saying that it's a sign of a pure heart. So if you keep, like those intentions and that way of having your mindset, your start point from, then you're going to not only see that friend call, but you're going to see all the things that are your desires and are your, point of excitement sort of just become materialized.
I love it. Mm-hmm. So we cannot deny the laws of physics. So yeah, that's my husband coming through. Kev, you want to say hi? Sometimes he's a co-host. Co-host over here. Kevin, what are your thoughts on
Hello.
What are your thoughts on heart-centeredness? Do you want to say hi to the camera?
Oh, we're cameraing too.
Heart-centeredness versus ego. What would you say?
Oh, that's a tough one right there. Yeah, no comment.
We did plenty of comments before you, Kevin. Don't worry.
As long as we're.
So we are just going to wrap up here, and thank you, Ilana, so much for being on today with me.
Thank you, Allie, so much for having me.
So everyone, thank you for listening, and as always, come back next week for more high vibe content and interviews. Peace out. God bless. Bye.
Namaste.
Namaste.